we can talk about how they usually answer the behavioral, situational, or maybe technical interview questions. How do we explain like the maybe very complex situation we ever had on to a very simple way? Maybe the next part I want to talk about how do the top performers close their interview. What are the common red flags based on your experience? Um, happen to a candidate in an interview? What type of candidates you as an interviewer usually like?
Hello, friends. My name is Bahroz. I'm a finance executive by profession, and welcome to my channel where I share with you how you can go about achieving career and financial success. Now, today's video is a recorded coaching session that I had with one of my followers, and they wanted a coaching session on interview. Now, I want to call out that I provide one to one interview coaching sessions, or career coaching sessions, or even personal finance coaching sessions. But specifically, interview and career coaching sessions. If you want to book a career or an interview coaching session with me, where you want to go through practicing your answers or delivery of the interview, I can help you with that. I can help you improve your delivery of interview, your answers, and how you can really ace the interview, just how I did with this individual, which you will see as part of this video. So if you want to book a session with me, you can book with using a link that I will leave in the description of this video. Now, this particular friend of mine who wanted coaching help with interview is going through multiple interview process and really wants to improve and get their dream job. So without further wait, let's get rolling into the session and see what kind of questions that he would be asking and how really I helped him improve his skills and tackle the different questions he had with regards to his interview delivery skills. Now, before we go into the session, I have to ask for you. One, in case you like the session, please press the like button. This is for free. Second, press the subscribe button as well so you get notified as soon as I put a new content on this channel. In case you are interested in career and financial success, this channel is right for you. Now, let's get rolling into the coaching session. So, Leo, thanks for joining. Thanks for this session and really appreciate for allowing me to record the session as well. This would really help other candidates who come on my channel and get a good value from the channel with regards to their career, their interview, their job prospects. So, would love to for you to introduce yourself first, and then I will take any questions that you have, and we'll move on forward from there. So, how about you introduce yourself, and how about you do introduce yourself the way you would typically introduce yourself in an interview? So maybe it would be good for me to give some feedback on your introduction piece as well.
Okay. Um, First of all, thank you so much, Barros, for this opportunity to be part in the interview coaching session. First of all, I would like to allowing me to have a call with you. My name is Leo, and I will describe myself as a passionate and versatile young strategy consultant with over 1.5 years experience since I'm graduated in 2022, with a proven track record of leadership during school and organization career. And over the recent year, over 1.5 years, I've gained plenty of knowledge and experience that is relevant to strategy consulting, in commercial and operational consulting. And I have strong educational qualification in chemical engineering as well, with minor in bioresource engineering and programming, with Python as my main language. Um, During this session, I expect to have like um, an insight of how the top performing candidates always do in an interview. Um, so from the introduction, how they explain themselves, and also answering the question, how they structure it, and closing the question. I'd say I already had around hundreds of interviews during before my graduation until now, but I still find it like difficult in some interview process. I just made it to the HR interview. I have somewhat somehow made it to the final interview, but I want to know more. How can I make myself different than the other? How can make myself stand out for the others? Um, I think that's all from my end. Um, I think we can back to you. Feel free to interrupt myself if there's anything unclear during my session, during my part. I will be helpful to. Uh,
Thank you, Leo, for the introduction. So let's start with the introduction piece first. You did talk about your graduation. You talked about your experience. I think these are good things. But it would be nice to talk about two more things, which is your any work experience that you've had. Now, it may be that you're working, it may be that you're studying. Even if you're studying, there might be other extracurricular activities that you've taken part in, which are very, very important. So it would be nice to talk about them as well. The idea is when you're introducing yourself, you kind of summarize everything about you, professionally and personally. So professionally, you say, this is what I'm studying, this is what I know, and this is what I've kind of achieved, or key highlights from your life. So for instance, when I'm introducing myself, I go like, my name is Bahroz. I'm from here. I've studied this, and I started my work, or I started my career with Procter and Gamble. And during my time in Procter and Gamble, the key highlights were one, two, three. I give them three highlights, and then I moved to the Lego Group. And during my time in Lego Group, I had the following are my three highlights: one, two, three. The idea is you kind of give a summary. It's very important because not everyone would have read your resume in full, and it would be nice for you to establish who you are early on versus them inquiring. They want to, the reason they're having an interview with you is because they want to know you. How about you make it easy for them? The idea is if you make it very easy for the interviewer, the interviewer will make it easy for you to clear that interview. So this part is very important, which you kind of didn't say in your introduction. And again, I understand that this is more of an easy setting. Probably when you are in an interview, you have a more expanded version of your introduction. The second
Yes.
piece, which is very important, is to give your personality in as well, like who you are, what do you like, what you don't like. You did talk about being versatile, but being versatile is like saying I'm collaborative, I have leadership qualities, I am um, fast learner. These are very superficial things. Like these are adjectives you can find in any interview, and any interviewer who is listening to this goes like, okay, I know about this. Talk about the sports you like. Talk about any hobbies you have. Talk about what motivates you. What do you like about? So, for instance, I would say I like creating, executing, and tracking strategy. And again, this is not personal. This is more still business, but I can talk personal as well. Personal, I'm into health and nutrition, or I'm into personal finance, and I do some YouTubing as well. I do some coaching as well on the side. So give your personality as well. Any sports you like. I love football. I like soccer. I play soccer on the weekends. That's what keeps me kind of my from my personal side keeps nourishing me from health and mental point of view. So this is point number two. And in the end, it would be always nice that when you're introducing yourself, give a summary of what you want the interviewer to take from you. So if the interviewer goes and sits in front of the hiring manager and they have to talk about Leo, he goes like, tell me in 30 seconds whether you will hire Leo and why. And he can say, yes, I will hire Leo. And these are the three reasons. Give those reasons to them in the introduction, which, as I said, so my passion points are, I would say it like this. My passion points are strategy development, execution, and tracking. I love analysis. I love problem solving. I love coaching and teaching people. So when this person has to go in front of the hiring manager, they exactly know because you told them in the summary who you are. This is another thing, by the way. Once you join an organization, you start your career, half of the equity in your organization is what you tell others. I have this individual in my workplace, and every time a new person comes and connects with him, he says, I am from a strategy background and I love strategy. He said that so many times that even if he doesn't create any strategy or may not have created any strategy in the organization, but people suddenly link him with strategy. So anytime we are doing some strategic work and developing the strategy for the organization, we call that person in. And I'm like, when was the last time he worked on this? How does he have such a strong equity around it? And the only reason is because he keeps talking about it with every individual. That's how he introduces himself. I have a strategy background. I love strategic decisions. I love making and developing and creating strategy. So give that introduction, give those elements in your introduction early on. Make sense? Helpful?
Yeah, that's very makes sense. I gained some new insight here. I do have a extended version of my introduction, explaining a couple of works highlight that I have been done before. and also some glimpse of my personal hobbies. But what I can take more is to create an impression about the relevancy with the work role that you apply for. That is a great insight. Yeah, I and I
Exactly.
agree with that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think so far clear in the introduction to make it stand out. How do you create that image of if we are talking about a person that should be reflect to something that you mentioned about strategy? I think that's very great. How about the answering the question in the um, after the introduction, we can talk about how they usually answer the behavioral, situational, or maybe technical interview questions.
Yeah. So let's talk behavioral interview because I think that's one of the most typical interview where they go like, tell me about a time when you led a project, tell me about a time when you did this or collaborated or had a failure or stuff like that. um, with regards to answering, follow the it's called a car or a star model. So car stands for context, action, and result. And if you call it star, it's like situation, task, action, result. I keep it simple. I love the car model more, but I know some of the people out there also refer it as star model. So let's stick to the car model. Context. You have to explain the context to the person you're giving the answer. That individual has no idea about which organization you worked for, what was the project you were working on. There are times when I interview people and they give the name of their organization, and it's not a famous organization, which is fine, but they say it so quickly that I even struggle to know which organization they're talking about. Now, at times it's good if you have the resume in front of you, you can always, even if you don't understand, you can always look into the resume and you know which organization they're talking about. Make it very easy for them to picture. How do you find it when someone is telling you about something, like you're sitting with a friend and a friend is telling you about something they're explaining to you? The easiest way for you to understand things is if you can visualize it. It's just like when we are reading a book. When you're reading a book, what do you do? What the best way for you to grasp what is in the book is for you to visualize, like you are really in that bus or in that car or on the road or walking, the way the novelist is describing the situation. So make the context so simple that the person who doesn't know about the company, doesn't know about the project, or doesn't know about any detail can understand what you're trying to solve. And by the way, even when you join an organization, this is this is the core of leadership. You will always find people who get promoted, people who grow faster in the organizations are those who can take a complex problem and explain it in a very simple way to someone else, to a top management. That's the one of the core elements of success for anyone. So the context should be very simple that the person can understand, and especially imagine. So you said you're from a computer science background, and you also said you have operational background as well and all. I am a finance guy. I don't know anything about Python. So how would you interview with me when I ask you a question? You have to explain the context in a very simple way that a dumb person like me can understand as well. Second is action. Now, when you talk about the action, this is the meat. This is where the interviewer is really judging you. The context is just for them to understand what is that will come later, things that you will talk about later. So they are judging you on the actions. So this is where the meat is. I have found many people who would just talk about the actions very superficially. And I was for things like, and I was able to collaborate, I was able to lead, and I led the project, I did the analysis, and we were successful. I go like, you led the analysis, you led, you collaborated. That's these are very superficial words. I want to know, how did you lead? I want to know, how did you analyze? Like, give me the details of the analysis. Give me the details of the collaboration. How did you go about collaborating? What did you do to collaborate better with the team? The actions, not just superficially saying big words. I collaborated, I led, and just moving on. You have to be very, very specific. And here, if the interviewer starts asking you probing questions, it's a good chance that you haven't given them enough detail. Now they may ask you cura- they may ask you probing questions just because they're curious, but it still means that you didn't give them enough, which is kind of an example. If you go in an interview and you said you've given a lot of interviews, and in your interviews you find every time you're giving an example, the interviewer is asking you a lot of questions. That means either you were not able to explain them well, and now they're trying hard to understand, or second, you did not give them enough details. So this is the action, and I can talk more about the action piece as well, but let me move to the result. Result is something which should be very quick. They are actually not interested in knowing the details of the results. They are just interested in knowing that it was successful or not successful. You can say any crap you want to say in the result, it doesn't matter. You just need to close it. Results is just closing the example. So you tell them, that's it, that's all I had to say. And you only close the example by giving them the results, that it was successful or it was a failure. And if it was a failure, why and what did you learn from it? Make sense?
Yeah, that's really makes sense for the care framework. Um, but my biggest, maybe my biggest concern here is to explain it in a very simple way. Do you have any tips or maybe tricks? How do we explain like the maybe very complex situation we ever had on to a very simple way? Maybe like
Yes.
repeating, or
Yeah.
do you have any like simple
So
tricks?
there are two things. One is the mindset. The mindset should be as if you're talking to your grandma, and I call it the grandma rule. Imagine when last time you were with your grandma and you were trying to help her understand what is an iPhone or a phone or any application or any technology. So have that mindset. Think of the person in front of you as someone who's dumb and make it very basic. So this is one. Second is use examples. So, for instance, I did this project which was about sachets in India. You know what? You're from Indonesia. You know what sachet is?
Yeah,
Shampoo sachet. When you go in the
yeah.
Western world, people don't know there's a sachet for shampoo. There are sachets for ketchup, but they don't know if there is a sachet for shampoo. It's a very developing world kind of a phenomena. So I have to explain it to them. So this is what I do. I say, so in India, the shampoo business is predominantly in sachets. Do you know what is a sachet? And they go like, no. So ask them the question whether they understand or not. When they say no, then you go like it's a like a small pouch which has a 5 ml or 6 ml sachet of shampoo that you can use in one go, just like how you have small sachets for ketchup. And now they understand. And now, since you gave them the example, you ask them the question, you kind of involve them. And since they're involved, now they're more interested in your example. And they go like, okay, now I want to know more. It's not a boring example anymore because you ask them a question. You kind of involved them, you included them. And the third piece is to ask them whether it makes sense or not. Like, does it make sense? Am I clear what I'm saying and stuff like that? So make sure you kind of re-question or ask them whether what you've told them they are clear about it or not. So these are the three things I would do. Make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, makes sense. That is very in fact insightful. Um, but in the what I struggling a lot with the this part in the core of the interviews, um, there are also a situation that you miss or forgot to explain the important thing in the beginning when you're in the middle of explaining thing, like maybe you forgot to explain more context. How do I like overcome and if this happen.
Give me an example. Give me an example of like you say how do you realize or when do you realize that you didn't do a good job in the context?
um, Maybe I explain I have done several a project in construction, and but I forgot how many team. I forgot to mention how many team members are there. Like how many team members and when did it happen. But I realized that in the middle of explaining my action. Maybe is there any way to get back, like um, fill out and explain to the recruiter?
Yeah, I think I understand your point now. I understand your question. that there may be instance when you were required to share a detail in the context, you didn't share it, and as you are explaining the actions, you realize this action you cannot explain if you had not talked about the context first. And since you missed
Correct.
that part, you can't. When you start talking about the action, you realize I didn't speak why I'm doing this action. I think
Yeah.
there is no smart way to get out of it except for saying, let me take a step back, or say, for background, let the idea is you have to tell them that you're going back to the context, because they are you that's another important piece, which is you have to give them a story, a thread. This happened, A happened, then B, C, D, E, F. You cannot jump from A to C, C to F, F to D. You have to go in a very linear way. Now, in case you have to go back, you miss B, you go A, C, D, E, F, and then you realize you have to go back to B. Then, my friend, the idea is that you say, let me give you some background to why I did this. And you have to take them back into the context. So, it is very important that you don't try to hide your mistake. Now, you don't have to call it a mistake and you don't have to apologize for it, but you have to make it very clear that you're moving them back. Because if they don't understand they're moving back and they're still stuck in the action, they're looking for, okay, how did you solve it? But you are taking them back, and now they're stuck, they will lose you. And if they lose you, that's the end of your interview. So you have to tell them, let me give you some background to why I was doing this. And then you take them back to the context that, remember, I told you this was the issue. Apart from that issue, there was another element of the issue as well. And because of that element, I thought I will first solve this element. And for this, I did this action. And then I did other actions to solve the other things that I already talked about. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Great insight for me. It's very helpful. How to like overcome if it's happened during an interview. Um, Maybe the next part I want to talk about how do the top performers close their interview. Maybe after the um, Q&A of the interview is done. How do they like close the interview elegantly, based maybe based on your experience? You ever saw some top candidates during an interview?
Yeah. So I don't know if you're referring to that part, but there is always a part towards the end which says, let me know if you have any questions for me. It is very important that you have questions for them. Don't say I don't have questions, and don't ask questions like, can you tell me what is the next step? Like, don't ask questions which doesn't require much brain power. Ask smart, intelligent questions, questions that they go like, this is a good question, I didn't think of this. You have to make them think like that. So there are two things. One is, come across as someone who's asked a good question, and second is, ask a question to deliver a point. So, for instance, one question that I like asking is, tell me, what does success look like for the individual who will come in this role? Now, this does two things. One is, it makes them talk about the role, and it's a good question because you're interested in the role and all, versus just talking about that I don't have any or tell me when is the next interview and stuff like that. Second, you're also telling them that you're interested in succeeding, because tell me what success looks like. So they are already they're like, this guy is already thinking about how to succeed in the role. I want to hire this guy. And the third thing is, if they say something to you which you did not cover in your interview, let's say they say, for this particular role, we want leadership, we want collaboration. You already talked about leadership and collaboration in your examples, and we want attention to detail. Now, you did not talk about attention to detail just because maybe the question didn't come, or maybe the examples you shared didn't have attention to detail covered. So once they've said these three things, you go like, I have something to reflect, or I have some reflections on the answer you gave me. We did cover leadership and collaboration in my interview. However, we didn't talk much about attention to detail, and I just want to tell you that I also possess, or it's kind of one of my key motivation areas, which is to be very detailed oriented. And if you look at my resume as well, or the past projects that I've done, were around projects which required a lot of detail, which had a lot of detail and required a lot of attention. And I'm someone who likes going through each and every detail of the projects, just because that's how I feel comfortable working on a particular project, working with the particular team. And my team also finds me as that person who will go into the details and make sure that there is everything is watertight. So I kind of make sure I did not miss any part. So what I'm saying is there should always be a purpose to the questions that you are asking. Make sense?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I think I get it for the questions. The first interview part. Um, but there's always like, in some interviews that I have experienced, there are always like, close, how we end it, like the closing statement, or maybe like a one or two sentences.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, how to maximize that,
Yeah.
close
So
from the candidate.
see, what passion or ambition is like worth 25 IQ points. If you show passion, you will just get another 25 points just for being intelligent by the interviewer. So that last moment is for you to show your enthusiasm and passion. And how do you go like doing it is you go like, thank you for giving me, that's it. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. It was a wonderful chatting with you and I really enjoyed this. So you have to come across as someone who is enjoyable, who is fun to work with. And that will only happen. You have just 1 hour for you to tell them how fun you are or how enjoyable you are, because at the end of the day people want to hire people who they enjoy working with. So use that last 30 seconds to say that how much you enjoyed, because if you tell them you enjoyed it, kind of puts a pressure on them to say maybe I enjoyed it as well. So you go like, thank you for giving me this opportunity. It was wonderful talking to you and I really enjoyed our conversation. Actually, these are the things you want them to say. So whatever you want them to say, you say it yourself. So they register it and feel the same. So you want them to feel good 1 hour spent. I enjoyed it. What a conversation. What a guy. What great stuff to learn about him. So you say exactly this to them. It was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for the dialogue, and we'll look forward to working with you, or we'll look forward to pursuing this opportunity further, and something on those lines. Make sense?
Okay, that really makes sense, and I agree with it. Um, but we can, like, trace back to the general candidates. What are the common red flags, based on your experience, um, happen to a candidate in an interview? The common red flags, or maybe like, common things that, you as an interviewer, um, find it, really bad, or, um, any that, the candidates, not performing or whatever in an interview.
So is your question, what are the things which st- which are negative, or what are the things which are positive?
The negative part, of
Yeah,
candidate
okay.
that
It can be a long list. It can be a long list of things, and I cover this a lot on my channel also. Um, but starting from not having a body language, see how I'm speaking, see how I use my hands. It is very important because especially when you are in a remote setting and you're online, it is very important for you to use your hands, even if you don't use them when you're in person, because you have to come across as someone who is expressive, who is passionate about the role and ambitious. And that will only happen if you use the hands, if you use your smile, use your eyes, go like. And then when I worked on the project, it was amazing. And my team was really helped. See, now I'm exaggerating. You don't need to exaggerate to that extent, but this thing is very important. So someone just sitting dead, silent, is boring. You need, again, as I said, you hire people who are interesting. That piece is one thing, which is make use of your body language. I give a tip: always try to come on time, rather 5 minutes ahead, especially when it's an online interview. You don't know what technology would do to you, so just be there 5 minutes early. Dress up versus dressing down. So if you think I should I wear a t-shirt or a polo shirt? If you are having that question, just wear a polo shirt. Just wear one level up. It won't hurt. Wearing one level won't hurt. Up won't hurt. But wearing one level down would certainly hurt. So you rather avoid any risk from that angle. Don't badmouth your previous employer or your manager, even if you hate them, even if you hate your manager, the employer. Just talk good stuff about them. They don't know the other side of the story, and it's just not good. Again, I on my channel I cover a lot of things which can go wrong, which are not right. uh, make sure there's no noise around, like you have good lighting, you have good sound. Those things are very important as well. And yeah, those are the things I can think of top of my head.
Okay. Really great bullet point for that I took notes for the red flags. But how about the green flags? Right. Like in general, what type of candidates you as an interviewer usually like?
Oh, passion, and someone who can show ambition and positive attitude, like positivity. At the end of the day, I think I can teach you anything, but what I can't teach you is how to be passionate about the work. So you really have to come across as someone who wants this job. There are people who go like, oh, I will not come across as someone who's dying to have this job. No, you should come across as someone who's dying to have this job, because if you come across that, I will rather hire someone who's really dying to get the job versus someone who has an attitude of, oh, if I get it, good. If I don't get it, it's fine. So show a lot of passion, and passion will come by you taking interest in them, taking interest in the questions they're asking, and giving your full best. Ask smart questions, as I said. Give one of the best introductions. Introduce yourself is one of the first questions you'll get. Introduce yourself like no tomorrow. Have a good strong leadership example, whether you have management or you don't, whether it's a small role entry level, whether it's a senior manager role or executive level role, doesn't matter. There will always be a question around leadership, and just throw it out of the park. Communication is important. Interview is all about communicating. It's all about conversation, not just communication. It's conversation, so make it a conversation. Don't come across as someone who's just answering questions. As I said, make them part of it. Ask them questions. Do you understand this? Is it clear? Has this happened to you as well? Are you familiar with this? Probably you're not familiar with this. It happened in my organization, but this is how it happens and all. So strike conversation. So they whenever, because it's at times it's also boring for the interviewer to go through 5 interviews back to back. So once you engage them, they get engaged and they are more attentive to what you're saying. So bring that engagement in as well.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, that's very helpful for my end. I think that's all that I want to know, and um, I think that's all of my concern right now.
Cool.
Do you have any maybe back to you, Barros?
No, Leo, thank you for again for the session, and I enjoy this. I enjoy coaching. I enjoy teaching people, and thanks for allowing me to record this session as well. As this would not just add value. I'm sure it added value to you, but would love to hear your feedback towards the end. But I'm sure it would be helpful for other people who come on my channel and view the content. But over to you. Tell me, was the session helpful? And did you get out anything out of it? And if what, just any feedback about the session would be helpful.
Okay. Is it now or um, after this?
No, no, now.
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
recording. Yeah, it's
Um,
fine. If you can give me any feedback, any recommendation, and like, how did you find the session? Was it helpful? Was it not?
Very helpful. I did miss some things that yesterday, my interview yesterday, I did not do it, but mostly I tackled what your point and your tips that you've been elaborated. The one thing that impressed me was to create impression that align with the role. Usually, like um, I'm an analyst, a consulting analyst, but I have a chemical engineering background that usually not align. It it can create an impression that um, that not a focused impression, not focused in one field. It's like too wide,
Mm.
if that makes sense. Yeah, that's a really great insight from me so far in this session. And about the explaining the context, also very helpful about how if I'm forgot something in the middle, but I need to explain the context. That's a great tips for me.
Cool.
So far, I enjoy also this session. A lot of insights I got from the session, and especially from you as a season now, season like interviewer also.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool. Thank you, Leo. Thanks a lot. And let's stay in touch. Keep me posted how your interviews go. And if you have any questions, just drop me a message on LinkedIn. I'm very much responsive there, so I can help you there as well.
will do.
Cool. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully, after watching this video, a lot of questions that you had pertaining to your interview have been resolved. If not, as I said in the beginning, you can still go ahead and book a session with me where I can help you improve your interview delivery skills. Thank you.